like to officially welcome you to Understanding and Leveraging the New Hampshire SAS 3 through 8 results. So my name is Tammy Hilton. I'm a school specialist with demonstrated success. Your presenter today is going to be Heather Jenkins. She's our Director of Assessment and Math Curriculum.
Hello, everybody.
And you also see Annie Wallace here. She is your New Hampshire Department of Education consultant in math and your contact there. So we want to thank the NHED for sponsoring this. They sponsor a lot of these webinars for us. So we thank them for that. Because we are in webinar format, all of you are muted. However, we do really encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation. If you could enter them into the Q&A section on your Zoom screen there down in your toolbar, that would be the most helpful. And we will get to them at some point in the presentation. Also know that tomorrow or within the next 24 to 48 hours, you will receive an email, which will have a link to your professional development certificate, the video recording of this webinar, the PowerPoint Heather is going to show you, and then any other documents that she might mention are in a handouts section. And then as you log off today, there is going to be a brief survey at the end of the webinar. We really do appreciate your feedback. We do look at everything that you say, and we do use it to plan for these future events. So again, we thank you for joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
All right. Again, thank you everybody for coming. We're going to turn our cameras off so you have a little bit more space on your screen. This is just a little gentle reminder. I was actually at a site a little bit at the end of last week, and I used this particular quote, and I like it a lot, about talking about data and just really being able to look at the data and not just thinking we know where students are at or where their learning is, but we're going to use and talk about a lot of the New Hampshire SAS data today, where you can find it and how you can look at it. So there were just a couple of questions at registration. We had a question from somebody that said at this point they do not have an account to access New Hampshire SAS scores. You do need to talk to your administrator. First person I would go to would be probably one of your either your principal or assistant principal. They might point you in the direction of somebody that's called an I4C coordinator. They're the ones who enter information into the system and make sure that people have access. There's a little bit that you need to do to be able to see the New Hampshire SAS scores after that. So if you end up being if you at least get a login into the system, you can reach out to me anytime, and I can tell you some of the other things like the test administration certification and all that needs to be done. The other question that we had is regarding the writing for your students for ELA. When it comes to interms and modulars, you're able to, in the reports, view on the portal the student writing. Never been able to print it. For summatives, unfortunately, not available. What you can do is you can download the information, and you can get all the individual scores for students and what they did with writing, but you can't actually ever see what they wrote. That just has to do with the fact that it is a secure test. And so any sort of writing that had to do with that would be releasing what the questions were and some information about passages. So they do not have the actual writing available. So this is our agenda for today. If any of you have ever been part of the, Understanding New Hampshire SAS Results webinar, this is the same type of webinar with some updated screenshots. Also, if you were at all part of, I had a leveraging data workshop yesterday in Concord. If you were there, this is going to not be news to you. So we're going to start off with talking about the summative reporting structure. Then we're going to talk about the scoring structure. And then we're going to talk about what it is and how you can view the summative data and the different reports that you can actually run. So first off, for reporting information, math and science results are available almost instantly once the tests are completed. Sometimes it's overnight, but typically we do not see any delay in math and science results. Where we see the delay is in the ELA results. Couple different reasons. One, they have to complete both the reading and the writing portions. They both need to be complete before you see any scores. And then there is a portion of the assessments that are pulled for hand scoring. Couple different reasons. One, they're always monitoring, making sure that the computer generated scoring is matching what folks that are human would be putting in for a score. And then every once in a while, scores could go either way. They're really close from one score to another. So the system will kick it out and it will be hand scored. We're also finding a little bit of a delay that's typically around 10% of students that this has happened with in the past. I will say this year, I have had a couple of folks letting me know that it's a little bit more than 10%, and it's a relatively significant delay for a larger number of students. But the longest I've heard, I think, is about 10 days after the student submitted. If you are waiting longer than that and students have submitted tests definitely up to 2 weeks or so ago and you aren't seeing the results, reach out to me. My email will be at the end of this, but we are seeing a little bit of a delay there. So another piece of information here, anyone who's set up as a teacher in Tide or a TE, as you log in, you have a little drop-down menu or defaults to TE. You will need rosters set up in Tide to view any student test results. So even though you administered an assessment, you aren't able to view student results unless you have rosters set up. So again, one of your administrators or your I4C coordinator is somebody that can help you set up those rosters. If you are a school test coordinator or a district test coordinator, you do not need rosters. You can see anything within your school. If you're a school coordinator, if you're a district, you can see anything that has to do with your whole district, and then you can drill down into the different schools as well. If you are a TA, when you log in, it says TA, that means you're a proctor. You will never be able to see student results as a proctor. Typically, people who are proctors are somebody who is pulling students individually, maybe to deliver an assessment, or somebody that does not necessarily need access to student results. So if that's how you're logging in and you do need to see student results, then somebody, either your administrator or I4C coordinator, will need to update you to at least a teacher role, and then put rosters associated so you can see the students' information.
And Heather, there was one quick additional question. Somebody wants to know if the writing is hand scored by more than one person.
I don't know exactly what the like how it gets scored, if there's more than one human scoring it as well. I don't. I would say probably not. I think it gets kicked out and then it gets hand scored. And then I think if somebody who has it, it's hand scored and it's coming out relatively close to what the computer is, then it's done at that point. If it's something that's really off, I think that they kick it out to another person as well.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Just to continue on with the roster information, a lot of people have questions. Can students be part of more than one roster? Yes, they can. So if you're specifically in a middle school environment, your math teachers can have students rostered to them, and those same students can be rostered to your ELA. Usually people have access to their class or grade level, but they can also be given access to multiple grade levels. It's just you need to configure the rosters that way. So any of your test results, if you're looking at modulars, interims, or summatives, you need rosters if you're TE. And then basically the way that rosters are created, you might have somebody, if I taught 6th grade, I might have the whole grade, and then I might have each one of my sections. It's pretty cumbersome to do it that way, but I know a lot of schools do it that way so that you can break the results out into their different sections or different classes. And then the naming conventions, you just need to make sure that you're consistent with naming conventions so it's easy for people to see which particular roster that they're looking at. When it comes to the structure of reporting and how the information is coming out, we're going to start with subjects. First thing you do is you have math, ELA, or science. For grades 3 through 8, you have ELA and math, and then science is just 5, 8, and 11 for your grade levels. For the subjects, it's directly correlated. All of the questions are correlated to the Common Core for math, Common Core for ELA, and then the science is the next generation science standards. When it comes to reporting categories, this is where it starts to change a little bit depending on the grade level. So your reporting categories are those sort of, if you're in math or ELA, those are the subcategories that we're looking at. So the reporting categories for math are here. So you can see anything that has an and an underline is 2 math domains in one reporting category. It's important to kind of understand that because it's listing standards 1, 2, 3, and 4. And depending on which cluster of standards you're looking at, it will change which domain we're looking at. So it's just really good to know that you have 2 domains in one reporting category sometimes. For ELA, it's consistent across the board. There's reading informational text, reading literature, and writing. And then for science, you have your different areas of science: earth and space science, life science, and physical science. If we're looking at the Common Core documents, the way that we're looking at this now, we're looking at math as our subject. And if we're looking at different reporting categories, this is where I was saying there are different domains of math that are represented in the reporting categories. Same thing with ELA as our subject. Now we're looking at domains, and we have reading standards for literature, reading standards for informational, and then we'll have writing, so on and so forth. For science, the way that it works is we're looking at, again, physical, life, and earth and space science. For the clusters and standards, this is where people get a little bit tripped up on the terminology here. So if we're looking here, we're looking at math. Our reporting category is operations and algebraic thinking. And then we're talking about our clusters of standards. So those are those big, bold, broad areas underneath a specific domain of math. Those are the clusters. And then the clusters have individual or multiple standards listed underneath them. Same thing for ELA. We're looking at ELA as our subject. Reading standards for literature is our reporting category. And then within that, you have clusters like key ideas and details, craft and structure, integration of knowledge and ideas. And then within those, you have your specific standards. For science, what we have here is we have our clusters or our disciplinary core ideas. And then within that, we don't break it out any further than that. There's no specific standard level or anything like that. So you're dealing with just clusters there or your disciplinary core ideas. Pause there just to make sure there aren't any questions, and we can move on to how it's scored.
I do not see any at this time, Heather.
Great. All right. So now when we're talking about the scoring structure, we're going to go through the same thing, and I want to explain the different scoring for each one of these levels. So first thing is subjects. So for ELA, math, and science, there are 4 levels of proficiency that you will see. The 4 levels are below proficient, approaching proficient, proficient in applying, and highly proficient in applying. The level 3 and level 4 are the ones that are combined together, and that's your overall proficiency percentage. So there's 4 levels for your overall. So these are all based on what we call cut scores. So Cambium has cut scores that put students into a specific level, depending on which subject you're talking about and which grade level they're working with. So if you're on the reporting portal here, you will see all the students listed on the left, and you'll see a scaled score here. Every student gets a scaled score, and those are all averaged to be able to create your overall proficiency for your school. And this is how they get put into level 1, 2, 3, and 4, as you can see on the right-hand side for performance. For reporting categories, it changes a little bit. So again, these are all our different reporting categories that we have. For any given reporting category, there are 3 levels of proficiency. There's low, there's approaching, and then there's basically meeting standards. We have the words at or approaching and on or above, which gets a little bit tricky. So I basically say anything that you see in yellow or that at or approaching, they're almost there, or they might be just above low, but the green is what we're really looking for, that on or above. So each reporting category, there aren't necessarily cut scores that have been given to us, but if you look in the reporting portal, each particular reporting category will have its own indicators of what low, at, or approaching, or on or above are. So this is just a math one. This is another math one that we have here for maybe a different reporting category. This is an ELA one for what they have with looking at either reading or writing. Same thing here. And then this is a science one. For reporting category scores, I just want to basically show you what you're looking at here. So here's our reporting categories, and we have, this just happens to be a science example. You can see here for the total, there's 4 levels. For each reporting category, you have 3 levels here. For clusters and standards, it starts to get even more interesting here. So here I have, this is an ELA example. Our clusters are here. So you have craft and structure, and you have integration of knowledge and ideas. So craft and structure, integration of knowledge and ideas. And each one of those has your particular standards that are going to be listed in there. This is just giving you a little bit of information. I am looking at this at either the roster or the grade level. As soon as you look at the student level, these little things go away here. So if I break this down now and see the standards within each one of these clusters, I start to see a lot of these symbols. As we look at the symbols, I just want to explain to you what these are. So I'm going to, if you're looking at a specific standard, this is anytime you're on the reporting portal, if there's an I next to any of this, you can click on it and it will tell you what that is. So on the reporting portal, craft and structure standard 4, this is what it's referring to. When we print out the reports, you will only get the word standard 4. So you're going to have to correlate it, which is why I was kind of showing you earlier about where those clusters and standards are located in the Common Core documents. I want to open this up and explain a little bit more about a lot of these symbols. We have 2 different indicators for every standard that is has data associated with it on the New Hampshire SAS Summative. So the first column that I want to look at is this proficient column. You've got a lot of these symbols in here, and they correlate with that same sort of wording that we saw before, that is that below proficiency standard, at or near or above proficiency standard. So you're wanting to see check marks here. The insufficient information just means not enough students got questions related to this standard to be able to give you any real true scoring on it. So we've got here, so you want to see your check mark, and you want to not see any X's here. And then these are the kids that are in between meeting proficiency and below. So that's your first indicator. That's the most important one that we have here. If I take off the proficient column, now we have a second indicator that is weak or strong. So this indicator tells us whether this particular area for our students and all of the standards that we're looking at, right here, we're looking at reading, literary text. There's 9 different standards in there. Of these standards, they will have certain standards that are an area of strength. We'll have other standards that are pretty typical for our student scoring. That's sort of the average one, the equal sign. And then we'll have certain standards that might be an area of weakness relative to for our students. This is not in, relative to your district or your state or anything like that. These are the students that are taking this particular assessment. So this gets a little bit confusing when people are basically, that first indicator might have said that most of the standards are on or above. You will still see something that's an area of weakness because it's putting all 9 of those standards and saying, this is how the students did on each one of these standards. And it basically rates them from the highest performing standard to the lowest performing standard. So if everything you're doing is you're below proficiency standard on, you're still going to see an area of strength. And if you're doing everything that your students are doing is above proficiency standard, you're still going to see most likely an area of weakness. If most of the standards are the same type of performance on those standards, you may not have an area of strength or an area of weakness. It tends to pull the outliers that are really high or really low. Okay. For science, just a little bit of a clarification. Again, you're still seeing all of these symbols, but it is for those particular clusters or disciplinary core ideas. It doesn't get down to the standard level. Okay. All right, questions about that?
I do not see any questions, Heather.
Okay, thanks so much, Tammy. All right. So now we're going to be showing you how you're going to view the summative data. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go into the portal. If you just Google New Hampshire SAS, NH SAS, it's the first thing that pops up, but this is the link to it. Once you're here, you're going to choose test administration. On the test administration, you're going to scroll all the way down and you're going to choose reporting. And then you're going to log in. When you're logging in, this is what you'll see. You'll have your home page. The first thing it actually brings you to is you need to, it will bring you to like a dashboard creation, and you want to make sure that the summatives are chosen. And then you'll say, go to dashboard, and then it looks like this if you have the summatives chosen. So this is all your summative tests. This is everything that you have access to. So if you're a teacher and you only have access to specific students from your class, you're not going to see high numbers like this. Once you're here, you're able to choose whichever summative you want to view. You click on that, and then it will bring you a list of everything that you have access to view. I'm in as a school coordinator or district coordinator, so I have access to all the summatives here. You can see the overall distribution for each grade level. You can see when the students completed the assessment, grade levels, all of that. Any of this information up at the top here, you can use these. They look grayed out, but they actually can be used, and you can sort by however you would like. If you wanted to sort and put them in grade order. Typically for the summatives, you don't need quite that. You don't need to use the sorting as much, but if you're looking at New Hampshire SAS benchmarks or modulars, you might have a giant list and you want to put it in order in some way, so you can use any of these here. So here's each grade level that you're able to see the average scaled score, how many students took it, all of that information there, and then your distribution again, because this is a total, it's 4 levels. If you wanted to click on or sort by anything, you can sort by specific schools. If you're a district person, you can say, I only want to see this for a specific school. The test reasons are pretty, they're summative. So we haven't changed test reasons at all. But if you're a district person, you can change it to view just a specific school. Now, if I wanted to go in, maybe I want to look at math grade 5, I can click on that, and it brings up a screen that looks like this. So I have my schools listed. Again, if I am a TE, I will maybe have my rosters listed. If I don't have rosters, it will say students not on any roster. If I didn't have rosters as a teacher, I wouldn't see it. But if I'm a school coordinator or a district coordinator and rosters aren't created, it will say students not on any roster, and I would be able to look at them. Once I'm on this screen, I can see any of the information here for student counts and our distributions. I can use any of this sorting function again at the top. And then I can start to drill in on and say, okay, if my average scaled score is 460, I can click on any of these eyes and it will tell me what those particular cut scores are for that and how close they are to that. As I go to the right, I have these plus symbols. I can click on any one of these and open it up. So I've opened up operations and algebraic thinking here, and I can see, like I was seeing before, all of the symbols that are there. I have, again, 4 levels here, 3 levels here, and I can see the standards that are associated with that. All right, so any of that, again, that's my reporting category. Here are my clusters, and then my individual standards. And then I have my 2 different indicators. This is my proficiency indicator, and this is my second indicator if I want to use that and to see if something is weak or strong. If I want to go into a specific school, then I have my roster information, right? Again, you have to have rosters and tied to be able to see by specific teachers. And then you can take a peek at any of that information as well. And you can see any of the information regarding what those particular teachers are doing and their students are scoring for any of these reporting categories. These 2 here, modeling and problem solving, they are a little bit different. You will never see that, check mark minus insufficient information or anything like that. It just gives you an overall distribution for those particular reporting categories, kind of sub-reporting categories from what you have here with your major domains. All right. Now, if I'm into my specific student information, I can start getting all of this same information for all of my students. I'm viewing all of my just general student information. I can open any of that up, but now it goes from all of those symbols to what that specific student scored on this particular reporting category. If we're looking at ELA, just a couple of differences. I'm in my schools here. I have my reading, informational text, reading literature, and writing. These again are shown after they've taken both assessments. These 2 look exactly the same. You're looking at your clusters, and then within that, you have your standards and all of those symbols that are above, that are approaching, and below. And then you're weak or strong. And then once you're going in here, you can see the writing dimensions. So this is a little bit of information about the writing. So when you're looking at this, if you're a TE, you probably won't really see this unless you have different rosters set up. But as school coordinators and district coordinators, you can see a lot of this information either at the roster level or the school level, depending. And what this is you have these percent of points earned. This particular green one this is the school or roster that has the highest number of possible points for the highest score that can be had. So 2 points here. This particular roster, number 3, has the highest points out of all of the rosters for scoring the maximum number of points for conventions. Oops. Wanted to go back. Wanted to have, there we go. So you see that there you have green here. The red is the roster or school, depending on which view you're looking at, that has for evidence and elaboration or organization and purpose or even conventions, the highest percentage of students that are scoring the lowest number of points. So green, highest number, red, lowest number. And there are some where you won't have both. So the example here is for conventions, you only have green because you have somebody, this roster 3 has 91% of students scoring the maximum points. Well, 0 points on conventions, there's nobody with the lowest score on here. There's no roster with that. So there's no red down arrow here. Same thing with this. So this is evidence and elaboration. This is a roster that scored the lowest percentage of student, the highest percentage of students scoring the lowest number of points here. So that's red. But nobody scored 4 points, so you won't have a green up arrow. This one, this is your roster that has the most students scoring the lowest number of points. And this is the roster with the most students scoring the highest. You've got that here. So nobody scored 4 points here for evidence and elaboration. So I don't have a green up arrow at all. So you'll only see the arrows if students are scoring 0 points or the maximum points. Okay. Is there a question there on this, Tammy?
There is. It says, I'm a district admin and hoping to learn how to look at the data at the district level. I'm familiar with how to look at it by roster, grade level, cohort, etc. But if we are looking for a summary across many grade levels, how might we do that? For example, overall performance in grades 3 through 5 or an ELA overall for the entire district.
That's really, so here, what will happen is if you log in as a district coordinator, you see the district here. And you see, this, because I'm in a school, this is listing school and then all the rosters. If I were in as a district coordinator, I would see your district here, and then each school will be listed on this particular list. If you're looking for overall, you're going to get the overall for grade 3 on one of the previous pages before you. So you're on your dashboard. And then as soon as you click on math or ELA, you're going to see for each grade level that whole particular distribution. So here I am. If I go back here, this is my dashboard. I can see my overall district. That's on every single assessment. I open up for math. This is where I'm seeing the overall distribution for 5th grade, 8th grade, 4th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, 3rd grade. These are my overall distributions, and I can print from here. We'll talk about that in just a little bit too. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Heather. They found that very helpful.
Okay, great. All right. So next we're looking at here is if I go in here and I go into the school and I start to look at my rosters and I open a roster and I get my students, you can see that my writing information disappeared. I have reading informational text and reading literary text. We've talked to Cambium about this a little bit, just to let them know that folks are really wanting to be able to see the individual writing results. We don't necessarily need to see the actual writing, but we would like to be able to see the distribution of points. It is available if you download student results. And so we can talk about that a little bit. There's a print button up here, and then you'll be able to choose download student results. And that will give you the information on writing. If you just choose print, it will only give you reading informational and reading literature. So it's download student results to be able to see that. It can download it to Excel or whatever, and it will give you their point distribution. Okay. If you open these up, this is where you're getting the student information for reading informational and reading literature and what each student is scoring with that. For science, just to kind of show you a little bit of science, this is our overall science that we're looking at here. If we are looking at a specific grade level, we can go into grade 5 and then your school name here, and you can see how a particular school is scoring, we have that same weak or strong and the honor above. So proficient and weak and strong here. So that's the same. And then as you get into a specific roster, you can look at specific students and then how they're scoring overall, which is 4 levels. And then each reporting category has the 3 levels. Any questions about the reporting portal and what you'll see there?
It looks like one just popped up, Heather. It says, if I want to view trends by grade level in the district over several years, is there a report that compares such data?
Yes and no. There is a longitudinal report that is like an overall, this is how students are scoring from year to year. So that's kind of like a cohort one, and we can talk about where you'll find the longitudinal report. For science, there isn't a longitudinal report because it's kind of one of those, it doesn't work quite the same way because it's not, year after year after year. There is one, but it you won't be able to see, obviously, if you're in, 7th grade, you're not seeing science results. So if you're in 8th grade, it will show you 8th and 5th, I believe. We had talked to Cambium and I believe that that's available for science as well, but definitely available for ELA and math. But what ends up becoming tricky is if you're in middle school and you're a school coordinator, a school test coordinator, you have access to these students, but they weren't in your school the year before. So people are having a little bit of trouble with longitudinal reports that aren't at the district level. You can view them. It's hard to see a longitudinal report for 6th grade when you didn't have them in your school in 5th grade and they weren't yours. So there's a little bit to get around. So there's that. There is no report that says, I want to choose this year, this year, this year, and this year and print them all at the same time, but you can change the reporting time period. And so you can start to look at results for previous years. So I'll show you where that is here. And then if I'm not answering your question all the way, definitely hang on and we'll see if I can answer it a little bit better towards the end. So different data views. So this is when we're talking about download student reports. This individual student report is something that most schools are the thing that you put in the envelope, you seal it and you send it home. So this report shows individual students' results in either ELA, math, or science. The report is available simple or detailed. The simple report shows the student score, performance on each reporting category, and the detailed report will show the student score, and then it will show longitudinal data for that particular student and how they've done on the last years that they've been taking the assessment, and then also performance on each reporting category. So there's a little bit more information on that detailed report. Again, this report can be used to send to parents. There's an option to print supplemental materials as well. It's like a 1-pager that helps parents understand that. I know the parent portal is going to be coming out as well. So maybe schools are not going to be using this report as much because they'll get some information on that reporting portal, but this can help with them understanding the scores. And you can batch print these. So you can print them at the school level, grade level, roster level, or just for individual students. So the way that you do this is I'm on my home screen here. You can do a lot of this from different parts in different screens, but from here, I'm just going to hit download student results. And it's going to walk me through all the different things that I need to choose. I'm Spring 2023 summative is what I'm choosing. Next, I'm going to choose what subject or subjects I would like. So I could choose them all, but I'm choosing math. Whatever schools that I have, if I'm a district person, or if I'm looking at this from a school view, it will ask me if I would like all the students. If they're not rostered, all the students' names will be there or the rosters will be listed. And then I want to choose individual student report is chosen here. A single PDF and then simple. If you choose a single PDF, it's one PDF will have everybody, and then you can just print them and then separate them. Multiple PDFs, it will zip them all up and have different PDFs for each one. For simple, I'm going to run this right now and generate it. So I just want to show you sort of what happens. You're going to look here and you're going to say, I don't see anything. I just generated that. But you have to go to your inbox. Your inbox will show what all the reports that you've generated, and then you can download this. And once you open it, this is what it looks like. I'm going to break this up a little bit. So the top part here is showing, again, this is math. So it's showing you which level of math, and then a little bit about the quantile level and where that student is with their particular math skills. And then the bottom part shows for each reporting category how that student is doing and what the performance level descriptor is for what they're able to do in mathematics within that reporting category. If we would like to run this report and we want to do the detailed one, again, I choose all the same information. I'm going in here. I want to choose the detailed report. And this is what shows on a specific detailed report. Again, nothing's there. I go to my inbox, choose it. And so this is the detailed report. It's got 3 different sections to it. So that first section, again, this is, I did it for you this time as an ELA report, so you could see the difference for ELA. This is the student and what they scored on the assessment. This gives them the Lexile information. And then this is the longitudinal trend and progress for this particular student and how they did from year to year. And then this is your reporting categories, right? So informational and reading literature. And then they got the opinion essay and they scored 5 out of 10 points. And then it tells them how many points they got on each section of it. There's a much, if you're looking at this and trying to run this for multiple students to see how they scored, this is probably not the report that you want to run. I'll show you the download student reports that's a little bit different. And then you can just get the list of students. This is more to send home or to have in a file for each student for how they scored. This is the supplemental material that goes with it. So if I chose that option to print with supplemental material, this is just what the parents get to be able to help them understand a little bit more about what the score and scores on there mean. Is there a question? Tammy, I'll pause there because this is a different report that I'm talking about here now.
Yes. So somebody just wanted to clarify, if I want to print all results for one student and check all of the boxes, will it collate by student for me?
I don't know. I haven't ever printed like that where it would be for all the students, all the reports. I don't know. I'd have to check that. I can, what I can do is I can go into our demo database at the end of this, if you just hang on, and I can run it off of students in our demo database and see what ends up happening if it collates it or not.
Okay, great. Thanks, Heather.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the next thing is the downloading student data file. So you can, again, do this by district, school, roster, or student level. You can download any of these results to Excel, to a CSV, or a text file. You can download ELA, math, or science. And then the downloaded results include overall scores and reporting category scores. And they do include the individual writing scores as well. So if I'm here, I can go to download student results. This time, instead of choosing individual student data file, I'm actually going to, it's the same way to go through this, but I'm choosing now the student data file here instead of the individual student report. So I go through all of the same things. I'm going to say save to Excel, And then I can say a data file for each test or a single combined. I haven't really noticed much of a difference between the two of them. But the information here, it says right here, it says subscores will not be available. So just choose data file for each test and generate here. Again, it's in your inbox. You download it, and this is what it looks like. So when I downloaded student results for this here is for reading for ELA, I see the overall scaled score, their Lexile. I obviously took all the student information off here, what their level was for the overall for the summative, and then reading informational text, reading literature, and then you'll see an NA here for, specific students because they got the opinion, they didn't get the informative or explanatory, and this is what their score was. Same thing. So this prompt copy match, there's quite a few sort of indicators for writing, and the indicator for writing, the prompt copy match just means that they took too much of the information from the passages and had it verbatim in their writing response without doing any sort of sourcing or anything like that. So this is what that looks like for ELA in writing. When you print, you're able to do the same thing. It's slightly different. If you just choose the print button, it will not include the writing results. But for ELA and math, it includes all of the overall scores and scores for reporting categories. And so basically what you're doing is you're on the student performance by student tab here. So I can see all my students. And then I just click on that print button on the right. And it will allow me, I never print it as a PDF, even though I like the color, it just never seems to print properly. So I typically say save to Excel and then confirm. And this will open your inbox right up. And so now you're just going to download it. And this is what that looks like here. This just happens to be here a science for spring. I took the student names and just kind of de-identified it. And you've got all of your performance levels for each student within each area of science here. The longitudinal report, this is one that you're able to run this for ELA or math. Again, I'll check on the science. So I wasn't having as much success with science. And then this report, again, it's only available for grades 4 and above because they didn't take the assessment the year before for grade 3. And so I just click in here, open up summative ELA. I choose grade 4 or above, and then I'll get this build longitudinal report here. And it will give me the information on how the student scored on the longitudinal. This first one here, I'll just tell you, it's a little bit deceiving the way that it looks because the student scores obviously are going to increase. They went from one grade level to the next. The scaled scores increase from one grade level to the next. So I really like to take a look at, if I click on this little score, it doesn't look like it does anything, but as soon as I click that, it gives me this information, which I feel like is a little bit more useful to me than, the sort of line graph here. I like this chart better so I can see, okay, we have less students this year that are in the red. We have a lot more students and, are highly proficient and proficient. So it's a little bit better visual when you click on the button there. You can print this. This is one that I would print as a PDF and just take a peek over here. You can say print as PDF. I would say make sure that you're choosing landscape. That's the best way to be able to look at it. It gives you both of the graphs. And then you just confirm. It shows up in your inbox and you can download it, and it looks just like that. Any questions there?
There's just one question so far, Heather. It says, can you tell me how a student's Lexile score is determined?
I believe it has to do with their overall reading score. I do not, they haven't really given me a lot of information on exactly how that is determined. I'm sure that it has, they do a lot of things on the back end that has to do with, the depth of knowledge of the questions that students are getting, how they're performing on those particular questions. It has everything to do with the reading assessment. So I'm sure that there's something that's going on in the back end saying, basically, here is how they're scoring on all of these different types of questions. And it does something, you know, on the back end that says, okay, this is what we determine their Lexile score to be. It is the same with the quantile. It takes a look at your overall math, the depth of knowledge, and it is giving each student a quantile score as well. I've been talking with folks a little bit about the quantile measures, not as much about the Lexile measures. Those seem to be pretty on point, just to kind of make sure that we're understanding how those particular things are determined so that we can pass the information on as well. But it's my understanding that it has to do with the number of questions, what the depth of knowledge is, and how students are scoring on those.
Great. Thank you, Heather.
So this is a wrap up time. I will just go through the next couple of slides, and then for anybody who wants to stay on for a couple of minutes and ask any other general questions that you have, I'm happy to do that. And I can run with the demo database that information just to kind of see if it collates. I'm trying to even remember if it's going to let me choose more than one subject. I'm not sure that it lets me choose more than one subject. So hold tight for that. So as I close this webinar, you will get a survey, like Tammy said in the beginning, with a few questions. Please fill that out. It's super helpful. If you aren't able to do that today, when you get the email tomorrow, it will also have a link to the survey so you can fill it out from there. And then these are actually, we're it. This is the last webinar that we have for data coaching for this year. So you'll have to stay tuned next year to see what's coming forward.